Family, there comes a moment when you realize life was never meant to be a series of random motions. God did not breathe his spirit into you so you could simply survive the day. He designed you with intention, with purpose, with destiny. Today, I want to invite you out of autopilot into awareness, into alignment, into the life heaven always envisioned for you. There is a quiet longing woven into every human soul, an ache that no title, achievement, or applause can fully silence. It whispers beneath the noise of daily life, gently asking, who am I really? Before we ever took our first breath, before the opinions of people tried to label us, before culture tried to define our worth, God had already spoken a word over our existence. Heaven recorded a name for you long before the world ever knew you. This is why identity cannot be manufactured, bought, or borrowed. It must be remembered. It must be rediscovered through the one who authored your life. Many of us have been living under borrowed labels, wearing masks shaped by expectation. We wake up and move through our routines, carrying invisible scripts written by fear, shame, comparison, or even well-meaning voices that did not fully understand the uniqueness God placed within us. To awaken to identity is to silence the noise long enough to hear again what heaven has already declared. It is to allow the voice of God to cut through the clutter and call you by your real name. When you live unaware of who you are, you inevitably settle for survival instead of destiny, performance instead of authenticity, striving instead of abiding. The enemy of purpose is not always failure. Sometimes it is the false success built upon a distorted self. You can be applauded publicly and yet privately unsure of who you are. You can gather followers, accolades, and yet still sense an emptiness because the applause feeds an image, not the soul. Awakening to identity invites you into a place where validation no longer comes from the shifting opinions of others. It is a holy realignment where the approval you seek is anchored in the unchanging heart of God. Think about the power of God's original intent for your life. Before you had a rai some, before your family history attempted to limit you, before you ever experienced rejection, heaven saw your potential. Scripture reminds us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, crafted in the image of the Creator. That truth, when it moves from theory to revelation, changes how you walk into every room. It tells you that your worth is not contingent upon your mistakes or even your victories. It is rooted in the fact that you bear the imprint of the divine. When you forget your identity, you tend to chase what already belongs to you. You try to earn love that was freely given. You compare your journey to someone else's highlight reel, thinking you must mimic their steps to be significant. But awakening means realizing that no one else carries your exact assignment. No one else has your fingerprint on their soul. Your identity is not a competition. It is a calling. It carries a sound, a resonance that only you can release into the earth. There is something sacred about remembering who God says you are. It invites you to drop the counterfeit scripts you've been rehearsing. It invites healing where wounds have lied about your worth. It shatters the narrative that says you are defined by your failures or limited by your past. God never consults your mistakes to determine your destiny. He speaks from a place of eternal knowledge, declaring that your life has meaning far beyond the temporary circumstances you see. To awaken to identity is to stand in the mirror and see more than physical features. It is to look and sense destiny staring back at you. It is a reintroduction to the real you, the you that heaven dreamed about. This awakening often begins with a shift in perspective. You stop asking, who do people want me to be? And you start asking, who did God create me to be? That question opens a floodgate of clarity. It breaks the chains of comparison and frees you from the exhausting race of trying to prove yourself. As you awaken, you recognize that your life carries assignments unique to your design. There are lives tied to your obedience, breakthroughs connected to your yes. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you give others permission to do the same. People are waiting on the real you to emerge, not the curated version shaped by pressure. Authenticity has a fragrance that cannot be fabricated. It draws the right people, the right opportunities, the right seasons. This awakening is not a moment, it is a journey. It invites constant renewal, daily reminders, and continual intimacy with the one who knows you fully. There will be days when the old voices try to creep back in, whispering lies of inadequacy or fear. There will be moments when insecurity tempts you to shrink back into the shadows of comfort. But the voice of God will keep calling you forward, reminding you that you are chosen, set apart, equipped, and beloved. The more you listen, the more you realize identity is not something you manufacture through effort. It is something you receive by revelation. It is a gift that liberates you from the exhausting cycle of trying to be everything to everyone. It shifts your focus from perfection to purpose, from striving to resting, from proving to simply being. This transformation affects how you show up in relationships, in your calling, and even in your thoughts about the future. As you walk in this awakening, You begin to carry a quiet confidence that is unshaken by circumstances. Success no longer defines you. Failure no longer disqualifies you. And opinion no longer controls you. You carry an inner knowing. I am who God says I am. That knowing dismantles fear, fuels courage, and anchors hope in the midst of uncertainty. It reframes challenges, turning obstacles into opportunities for growth and deeper trust. You begin to embrace your story, even the parts that once felt like shame. You recognize that your history does not cancel your destiny. It becomes the soil from which purpose grows. You stop apologizing for your uniqueness. Stop diluting your voice. Stop hiding your brilliance to make others comfortable. You live with intentionality, knowing every breath is a testament to divine design. The journey of awakening teaches you that God wastes nothing. Every scar, every delay, every detour can be redeemed when placed in His hands. This identity shift has ripple effects on every dimension of life. It impacts how you pray because you are no longer begging for acceptance, but communing with a Father who already delights in you. It impacts how you dream because you dream from inheritance, not insecurity. It changes how you navigate opposition because you realize resistance often confirms significance. You stop measuring yourself against fleeting standards and start living from eternal truth. The awakening births resilience. When storms come, you do not collapse under their weight because you are rooted in a deeper reality. You understand that storms reveal, they do not define. Your identity remains intact even when circumstances are shaken. This is the power of living awake. Nothing external can rewrite what heaven has inscribed over you. As your identity becomes clearer, clarity about assignment naturally follows. You no longer chase opportunities out of desperation. You discern them out of alignment. You steward your time and energy wisely, investing in what carries eternal value rather than chasing temporary applause. Purpose becomes less about doing more and more about becoming who you were always meant to be. The posture shifts from striving to abiding, from fear of missing out to confidence that God orders your steps. This revelation transforms relationships as well. You love from overflow, not deficit. You stop demanding from others what only God can give. You release unhealthy attachments, knowing that your value is not diminished by someone's inability to see it. The weight of proving yourself lifts, and in its place rises the freedom to simply be. This freedom allows authenticity to flourish, both in you and around you. There is a boldness that accompanies awakening. It empowers you to say yes to assignments that once felt intimidating and no to distractions that once held you captive. It anchors you in truth when lies try to pull you off course. It calls you into deeper intimacy with God because the more you know Him, the clearer you see yourself. Revelation of identity flows from revelation of His character. The two are inseparable. The awakening to identity does not ignore pain. It transforms it. The wounds you carry become testimonies of grace. The shame you once hid becomes a platform for freedom in others. Your scars turn into signposts of God's faithfulness. You discover that identity is not the absence of brokenness, but the presence of redemption. The deeper you journey into identity, the more you recognize the enemy's strategy has always been to keep you asleep. If he cannot destroy your destiny, he will attempt to distract you with lies. He will magnify failures, highlight rejection, and distort truth to convince you that you are less than who God declared. But awakening breaks the cycle. It exposes the counterfeit and establishes you in authenticity. As you continue to awaken, gratitude naturally rises. You begin to marvel at the intentionality of your design, the way your strengths and even your weaknesses weave into a story bigger than yourself. You no longer despise your differences. You embrace them as evidence of divine creativity. You walk lighter, freer, and more anchored in the unshakable truth that identity is not a reward for perfection, but a reality rooted in grace. There is a subtle danger in comfort zones. They are warm, familiar, predictable, and yet quietly lethal to growth. So many lives drift into patterns repeating yesterday on autopilot, not because there is no calling on their lives, but because the rhythm of sameness numbs the soul into believing that survival is enough. Breaking the routine is not about chaos for its own sake. It is about refusing to let cycles of convenience bury the seeds of destiny. Every time you accept an unchallenged cycle, you quietly agree to postpone the life you were created for. Routine is not always evil. It can provide structure, order, and stability. But when routine becomes a cage instead of a framework, when it starts to dull passion instead of sharpening it, something has shifted. There is a kind of comfort that masquerades as peace, yet slowly drains your vitality. It whispers, "This is good enough," while your spirit senses there is more. Breaking that routine begins with courage, the willingness to disrupt familiarity for the sake of authenticity. Think of the seasons in nature. Trees do not cling to old leaves once winter has passed. They release them so new life can emerge. Many people hold on to cycles long past their expiration, refusing to let go of habits, relationships, or environments that once served them but now stifle them. The call to break the routine is an invitation to trust that letting go creates room for newness. It is an act of faith to believe that stepping out of the known into the unknown is where growth resides. This disruption begins internally before it manifests externally. The mind must first awaken to the realization that comfort has dulled hunger. It starts with honest questions. When was the last time I felt alive in my purpose? Am I living intentionally or just rehearsing motions? Those questions are unsettling because they reveal whether life is being stewarded or squandered. Breaking the routine requires confronting complacency and recognizing that safety is not the same as fulfillment. Fear often anchors people to routine. The thought of stepping out, trying something new, risking failure, it feels too costly. Yet, stagnation carries a silent cost, the slow erosion of passion, creativity, and vision. Fear convinces you that risk is dangerous. But the truth is that staying the same when God calls you forward is the greater danger. Breaking the routine demands a shift from fear-driven decisions to faith-fueled action. It means you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start moving with what you have. There is a stirring inside everyone when seasons shift. It is a holy restlessness, an inner knowing that the old rhythm no longer fits. You start to notice the monotony, the absence of wonder, the predictability that once felt safe but now feels suffocating. That stirring is a signal, not a nuisance. It is heaven nudging you toward uncharted territory, reminding you that destiny is never birthed in stagnation. This stirring should not be silenced, it should be stewarded. Listening to it positions you for transformation. Breaking the routine involves intentional disruption. It could be as simple as shifting your daily rhythms, carving out sacred space for reflection, or stepping into new environments where growth is demanded. It may require leaving behind relationships that keep you tied to the old. It may ask you to uproot mindsets inherited from fear, scarcity, or limitation. These shifts are not merely cosmetic, they are catalytic. Each small disruption becomes a declaration. I will no longer settle for less than what was written over my life. Change always feels inconvenient. The mind loves predictability because predictability feels safe. Yet safety can be an illusion when it costs you destiny. Many remain in cycles that drain their vitality simply because the alternative feels uncertain. Faith, however, thrives in uncertainty. It finds courage not by knowing every step ahead, but by trusting the one who orders the steps. Breaking routine means embracing the discomfort of growth, believing that every stretch makes room for expansion. There is also an emotional cost to routine breaking. Familiarity often provides a false sense of identity. When you step away from the cycles you've always known, insecurity can whisper, "Who am I without this?" That question is an invitation to root identity in something deeper than comfort. You are not defined by sameness, you are defined by purpose. Letting go of stagnant patterns frees you to encounter the authentic you, unshackled from routines that no longer serve you. Routine can also create spiritual dullness. The same prayers repeated without heart, the same patterns of worship done out of habit rather than hunger, the same avoidance of risk God nudges you to take. All of it slowly numbs sensitivity to His leading. Breaking this kind of routine may mean pressing in a deeper intimacy, refusing to let faith become ritual. It means showing up in the presence of God with expectancy, not repetition. Renewal often begins when you dare to seek Him differently, when you disrupt your norm to make room for encounter. Growth demands friction. Just as muscles only strengthen when resistance is applied, the soul only matures when challenged. Breaking routine introduces that necessary tension. It is uncomfortable, but discomfort is often a sign of development. Without friction, potential remains theoretical. With it, the hidden capacities of your life are drawn out. Every great story of transformation carries a moment when the individual chose disruption over complacency, courage over comfort. Consider the cost of remaining the same. Imagine years passing while destiny waits, watching you circle the same mountain. Opportunities miss you because you are anchored to old patterns. Dreams fade because fear persuaded you that change was too risky. Breaking the routine is an act of defiance against mediocrity. It says, my life will not be defined by repetition without progress. I will not allow complacency to script my legacy. There is also a creative awakening that follows disruption. When you shift your patterns, new ideas emerge. Exposure to new environments, conversations, and challenges sparks innovation. Perspective widens. What once felt impossible begins to feel attainable because you have stepped into a space where imagination can breathe. Breaking routine is often the birthplace of creativity, as monotony rarely produces inspiration. The process is rarely instant. Breaking routine unfolds over choices, small, daily, deliberate. It is waking earlier to nurture your spirit. It is saying no to distractions disguised as obligations. It is investing time and energy into what grows you, not merely entertains you. Each choice chips away at the old cycle, making space for new rhythms aligned with purpose. Momentum builds not from grand gestures, but from consistent disruption of what no longer serves you. Community plays a role in this transformation. Surrounding yourself with voices that challenge stagnation, that refuse to let you settle, ignites courage. Isolation feeds comfort zones because no one is present to question them. When you walk with people who are pursuing growth, their hunger becomes contagious. Accountability fosters boldness. Encouragement strengthens resolve. Sometimes breaking routine means stepping into circles where your comfort is disrupted for the sake of your calling. Reflection is another catalyst. Taking inventory of your habits exposes where autopilot has crept in. Where are you repeating patterns without fruit? Where are you stuck rehearsing yesterday's moves while longing for tomorrow's breakthroughs? Honest reflection breaks denial. It forces you to confront where you've allowed fear to masquerade as wisdom. Breaking routine begins with seeing reality clearly and choosing change deliberately. Gratitude can coexist with disruption. You can honor what a past season gave you while still releasing it. Breaking routine is not despising the old. It is acknowledging its purpose and moving forward. Seasons shift. Assignments evolve, and clinging to what was can hinder what will be. Gratitude empowers you to let go without bitterness, knowing that every step forward honors the journey behind you while refusing to be imprisoned by it. Breaking the routine also requires vision. Without a sense of where you are going, disruption feels aimless. Vision anchors courage. It whispers, there is more ahead than what lies behind. It paints a picture of potential that makes the discomfort worthwhile. Vision transforms risk into investment. It fuels perseverance when the pull of comfort tempts you back. Maintaining clarity of purpose keeps you moving even when the road feels uncertain. As you continue in this process, resilience develops. Change often invites resistance, internal doubts, external opinions, unforeseen obstacles. Resilience allows you to persist when the novelty of disruption fades and reality demands commitment. Breaking routine is not about temporary excitement. It is about sustained transformation. Resilience keeps you anchored when challenges tempt you to revert to the familiar. The ripple effects of routine breaking are profound. Dreams once shelved resurface. Dormant gifts awaken. Passion reignites. You find yourself inhabiting spaces you once only imagined because you dared to leave cycles behind. Relationships align with purpose. Opportunities meet you on the journey, and the landscape of your life begins to reflect the boldness of your choices. The world often applauds predictability, but destiny celebrates courage. Breaking routine positions you for divine intersections, those moments where preparation meets opportunity. The risk of leaving comfort pales in comparison to the reward of living fully awake. Every disruption carries within it the potential for transformation far beyond what familiarity could ever offer. Fear will whisper that you are unprepared, that failure is inevitable, that comfort is safer. Faith responds by reminding you that safety was never the goal, growth was. Faith whispers that your steps are ordered, that every move away from stagnation is a step toward destiny. Breaking the routine silences the illusion that comfort equates to peace and invites you into the adventure of authentic living. Within every person lies untapped capacity, gifts waiting to be unveiled, stories yet unwritten. Routine may have kept them dormant, but courage will bring them forth. The choice to disrupt familiarity is the doorway to discovering who you truly are beyond what is predictable. Life expands in proportion to the risks you are willing to take. Breaking routine shifts your language, your habits, your expectations. It breaks the gravitational pull of mediocrity. It aligns your steps with purpose, opening doors that complacency could never unlock. What once felt daunting begins to feel inevitable because courage reframes perspective. The unknown transforms from threat to invitation. Every great move of destiny demands a departure from sameness. Each new chapter begins with a willingness to release the old. Breaking routine honors the truth that you were created for more than cycles. You were crafted for transformation, for impact, for the unfolding of purpose that requires movement, change, and courage beyond comfort. Stepping into alignment is less about striving and more about surrender. It is the deliberate choice to bring every part of your life, your desires, your plans, your relationships, your ambitions, beneath the heartbeat of heaven. So many drift because they chase destinations without discerning direction. Alignment is not simply movement, it is movement in rhythm with God's intent. It is the posture of the soul that says, I will no longer dictate my own script while asking for divine endorsement. I will allow the author of my story to guide the pen. This shift requires humility because it invites you to release control and trust that what he has written is better than what you could ever design. Alignment begins with awareness. There is an internal nudge when your steps are out of rhythm. A subtle restlessness whispers that the path you're on does not echo the call over your life. This restlessness is mercy an invitation to recalibrate. Many ignore it, numbing themselves with distractions, convincing their hearts that business equals progress. Yet misaligned business exhausts the soul because effort without purpose drains more than it fulfills. Stepping into alignment demands that you stop, listen, and discern the difference between activity and assignment. To align means to examine motives. Why are you pursuing what you pursue? Is it to prove something to others, to fill a void, or because heaven has whispered that this is your lane? Motive matters because misaligned ambition can build empires that crumble under the weight of emptiness. True alignment liberates you from validation chasing. It shifts your question from, will people approve, to, is this what God has asked of me? That question pierces through pride, fear, and comparison, guiding you back to the core of destiny. Alignment is costly because it confronts every counterfeit anchor. Habits, relationships, even opportunities that once seemed advantageous may lose their grip when examined in the light of purpose. The pruning process is not punishment, it is preparation. Every branch cut away makes room for fruit that remains. Many resist alignment because pruning feels like loss, but in truth, it is preservation. It keeps you from pouring energy into what looks good but bears no eternal weight. This process invites you to slow down and discern timing. Not every door that opens is yours to walk through. Alignment discerns the difference between opportunity and distraction. Some doors are tests of patience, teaching you that waiting in God's rhythm is wiser than rushing in self-will. Timing is not delay, it is orchestration. The pause is often as purposeful as the push. Trusting this truth breaks the tyranny of urgency, anchoring you in the peace that the right moment will find you as you remain faithful. Stepping into alignment redefines success. Culture often measures success by accumulation, applause, and visibility. Alignment measures it by obedience. There are seasons when obedience looks like obscurity, hidden preparation, unseen faithfulness. The aligned heart learns to value unseen seasons because it knows they shape the character to carry future influence. When identity is rooted in divine affirmation, the hunger for public validation diminishes. You realize that hiddenness is not punishment. It is incubation for destiny. Alignment calls you to integrity. Private choices matter as much as public declarations. What you cultivate in secret determines what manifests in the open. Alignment invites consistency between conviction and action. It demands honesty in prayer, transparency with yourself, and courage to confront contradictions. The aligned life is not flawless, but it is surrendered. It is willing to be corrected, redirected, and refined. This humility opens the door for wisdom because teachability is a hallmark of those who walk closely with God. There is a peace that follows alignment, even in challenge. Circumstances may shake, storms may come, yet an anchored soul remains steady. Alignment produces confidence that is not arrogance but assurance. It knows that if you are where you are meant to be, no opposition can derail the plan. This confidence is quiet yet unshakable, rooted in the conviction that divine orchestration surpasses human manipulation. It frees you from frantic striving because you recognize that destiny unfolds by grace and diligence, not by panic and forcing outcomes. Alignment transforms relationships. When your steps are ordered, you attract partnerships that share your vision and release those that drain your mission. Misaligned connections, though comfortable, hinder growth. They pull you back to cycles you have outgrown. Alignment empowers you to release such ties with love, but without regret. It creates space for divine connections, people who sharpen, challenge, and encourage you toward purpose. These relationships are not transactional, but transformational, reflecting the mutual pursuit of God's best. To step into alignment, intimacy with God becomes non-negotiable. It is in His presence that clarity emerges. Time spent in worship, prayer, and stillness tunes your ear to the subtle whispers of direction. The more you linger, the more sensitive you become to nudges, red flags, and confirmations. Alignment is less about endless strategy sessions and more about cultivated sensitivity. Strategy flows naturally when vision is clear. Without intimacy, strategy becomes guesswork. With intimacy, strategy becomes revelation. Alignment also requires courage. The path will not always be linear or easily explained to others. Friends may question, family may misunderstand, culture may scoff. Yet alignment chooses conviction over consensus. It embraces that some seasons demand you walk alone, misunderstood yet obedient. The reward is an inner knowing that obedience outweighs opinion. The courage to be misunderstood often precedes the testimony of breakthrough. The aligned life shifts how you steward resources, time, energy, finances. They are invested intentionally, not scattered aimlessly. Distraction loses power because focus sharpens. You stop saying yes to everything and start saying yes to what truly matters. Priorities reorder themselves around assignment, not pressure. Stewardship reflects trust. It declares, I believe my provision is connected to my obedience, not to frantic accumulation. This mindset liberates you from the endless chase of more and invites you into the sufficiency of purpose. Alignment teaches you to release comparison. No longer enslaved to measuring your pace against another's, you recognize that calling is unique and timing is individualized. Jealousy evaporates when you trust that your lane has been divinely crafted. Someone else's breakthrough does not threaten yours. It affirms that God is still moving. This freedom fuels celebration rather than competition, gratitude rather than insecurity. Alignment empowers you to bless others without questioning your own worth. There is a rhythm to alignment, an ebb and flow of action and rest, sowing and reaping, speaking and listening. The aligned soul discerns when to labor and when to lean back, when to build and when to be still. It trusts that fruitfulness flows not from relentless motion, but from rootedness. Like a tree planted by streams of water, you produce in season, not on demand. Alignment guards against burnout because it rejects the lie that you must constantly strive to be significant. This journey also unveils hidden potential. Gifts you overlook begin to surface. Passions you silence reawaken. Alignment unlocks creativity because clarity removes the fog of confusion. Purpose directs energy, transforming scattered effort into concentrated impact. When your steps echo divine intention, even ordinary tasks carry weight. Work becomes worship, conversations carry seeds, and moments feel infused with meaning beyond the surface. Resistance often intensifies when alignment is near. Distractions multiply, doubts amplify, opportunities that seem easier yet compromise integrity appear enticing. These moments are crossroads, testing whether comfort or conviction will prevail. Choosing alignment may cost you immediacy, applause, or ease, but it preserves destiny. Every sacrifice becomes an investment in authenticity. Every delay, a deeper anchoring of trust. Alignment reshapes how you view failure. Instead of shame, you see lessons. Missteps become mirrors, revealing adjustments needed rather than condemning your worth. The aligned life recognizes that growth often involves recalibration, and even detours can be redirected into destiny when surrendered. Grace saturates the journey, enabling you to rise after falling, to learn after loss, to continue after delay. Your perspective on future shifts. Worry loses its grip because confidence grows that the one who aligned yesterday will align tomorrow. Hope becomes steadfast, not fragile. Dreams are held lightly yet pursued boldly, trusting that fulfillment flows from obedience, not manipulation. The aligned heart rests even while moving, at peace even in stretching seasons, steadfast even in uncertainty. Stepping into alignment demands honesty. You must be willing to admit when something is no longer serving your call, when your pace has outrun your grace, when ego has masqueraded as vision. Honesty liberates because it invites course correction without shame. Pride resists this, humility embraces it. Alignment thrives where humility resides because a pliable heart is moldable in the hands of God. Every step toward alignment is a step away from fragmentation. Life begins to feel integrated rather than divided, authentic rather than performative. You are no longer compartmentalized between who you are privately and who you display publicly. Integrity replaces image, peace replaces striving, clarity replaces confusion. This wholeness spills over into every sphere, work, relationships, inner life, because alignment brings coherence where dissonance once reigned. Alignment is also deeply practical. It affects the words you speak, the commitments you accept, the places you invest your creativity. You say no more often, not from fear, but from focus. You craft rhythms of rest because you value sustainability. You pursue excellence, not perfection, knowing excellence honors the call while perfection chases illusion. This practicality grounds the spiritual reality of alignment, translating revelation into lifestyle. The fruit of alignment is transformation that ripples outward. Homes shift because peace permeates. Communities benefit because purpose flows. Influence emerges organically, not forced, because authenticity carries an undeniable fragrance. The aligned person becomes a beacon, inspiring others not through lofty speeches, but through a life marked by congruence. Impact is multiplied when presence matches purpose. Alignment is an unfolding journey. It is revisited, recalibrated, renewed. Seasons shift, assignments evolve, and continued sensitivity ensures you remain in step. The aligned soul remains teachable, refusing to anchor identity in past achievements or cling to outdated blueprints. Flexibility becomes strength, openness becomes security. Dependence on God becomes the steady anchor amid changing tides. As alignment deepens, gratitude intensifies. Every provision, every redirection, every closed door becomes evidence of orchestration. You look back and see threads weaving together in ways hindsight makes clear. Fear diminishes because trust matures. You walk lighter, freer, not driven by frantic striving, but carried by divine rhythm. The journey into alignment is less about perfection and more about proximity, drawing closer, hearing clearer, walking truer.